Hey there, and welcome to the DCTV News at Noon program. This program is sponsored by the Southwest TV Translator Association and supported by the Dolores County Broadcasting Network, as seen on DCTV Channel 32.1.
The News at Noon program is the best news in the Four Corners area. We deliver a variety of news relevant to the Four Corners region.
We'd love to hear from you, so contact us with what you want to see covered. With that said, I'm Kendra Cook, and my co-host is Jerry Tope. Here's what's happening in the news for September 14th, 2016. Arson is suspected in a house fire in Dolores, according to the Cortez Journal. A man wanted for questioning in a fire that destroyed a home on County Road 27 led to a 5-hour manhunt Monday afternoon in the Rustic Ridge area, Montezuma County Sheriff Steve Nowlin said on Tuesday. Deputies apprehended the man about 8 p.m. Monday on County Road 26 after a resident reported that a suspicious person was in the area. Nowlin said he is in custody and has arrest warrants from previous incidents. It was important to find him. Deputies were searching the area by foot and vehicle, and an aircraft was called in from San Juan County, New Mexico to assist in the search. A truck stolen from the residence was found a half-mile away, high-centered and still running. The captured fugitive, who was wanted for questioning in the house fire, is suspected of stealing the truck. The home was apparently broken into. The house belonged to Thomas and Lorna Gift, who were away when the fire started. There were no injuries, and 3 dogs and a cat escaped the fire through a dog door. The Dolores Fire Department responded to the fire about 3 p.m. after a passerby reported smoke coming from windows and the roof, said Dolores Fire Chief Mike Zion. When I pulled up, fire had spread to the roof and was coming out the walls, he said. It looked like it had been burning for a while before anybody noticed and called it in. Dolores Fire responded with 2 engine crews and 2 tanker crews, and the Cortez and Mancos fire departments assisted. The fire was knocked down in an hour, and crews mopped up for several hours. They had a nice place and lost everything, Zion said. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation has been called in to assist with the fire investigation.
According to the Cortez Journal, the Cortez Sanitation District continues to search for a replacement for Tim Krebs, who served as manager for 13 years before his death on May the 20th. District board members on Monday held an executive session to discuss candidates for the position, according to Superintendent Phil Starks. At Monday's regular meeting, the board accepted the resignation of board member Tim Robinson, who has stepped down for personal reasons according to Starks. Another board member, Dylan Ferguson, may move out of the district soon, so the board may need to find 2 new members, he said. The Sanitation District is on the hook to pay for damages to sidewalk panels at the Carpenter Natural area. Maintenance trucks travel across the area to access a sewer line, and several concrete panels have been damaged through wear and tear, Starks said. Board members disputed the number of panels they needed to replace. Starks said the city's Parks Department was asking the district to replace 12 panels. But board member Jim Candelaria said he discussed the issue with city officials and they had asked that the district replace 15 panels. At a meeting in 2014, district board members approved the replacement of 18 panels. But the repairs were not completed at that time, Starks said. Ferguson said that if the district agreed to a certain amount of work at that meeting, board members should not agree to pay more for repairs now because the construction has been delayed for 2 years. Starks said the district is responsible for the damage to the panels, and board members should replace what the city asks them to replace. The price for the repairs will not be finalized until the City Council approves the bid for the 2016 concrete cost share project, which the council will discuss at its meeting Tuesday evening.
And now for some llama drama news, reported in the Durango Herald. Efforts to capture 2 pack llamas that have been stranded for a month in the Wamanuchi wilderness have so far been unsuccessful. The llamas, Dawson and Chai, accompanied 2 women who became lost for 2 cold nights in the rugged terrain northeast of Vallecito Reservoir. The women were ultimately rescued by helicopter, but they had to set the llamas free to fend for themselves. Rhonda Ramsier, one of the women who was lost, said she and her husband Jack McRoder have made 4 attempts, several days each, to locate and rescue the llamas, but as of Tuesday they remained elusive. There have been 2 sightings, including one on August 22nd, in which McRoder was close enough to lasso Dawson, but he slipped out of the rope and moved to higher ground. With hunters abundant this time of year, Ramsier and her husband are hopeful someone will report their location. She has placed signs at the trailhead and has reached out to people coming and going from that that area, including a cattle rancher. People have suggested using a plane or a helicopter to search, but aircraft would likely fly too high to spot the animals, especially if they are in the trees. Others have suggested using a drone, but it is illegal to launch drones from within the boundaries of congressionally designated wilderness areas. Llamas can be difficult to coax towards humans, but they are sociable with other llamas. Some people have suggested Ramsier and her husband take other llamas to help lure them. But before taking llamas into the wilderness, they would like to first pinpoint Dawson's and Chai's location. The llamas can survive on bark, pine needles, and certain kinds of vegetation. They also don't need much water and can subsist by licking the dew off the morning leaves. It's possible the llamas will follow the grass line and hopefully go in the right direction as the snow starts to fly. Ramsier and her cousin Carol Powell of Rittman, Ohio, became lost August 12th in the Cave Basin area after losing a trail while on a day hike. They survived for 2 nights with minimal gear, including no fire-making devices. They were rescued about 4:30 a.m. August 14th by the U.S. military, which spotted them shining a $3 flashlight at a helicopter searching the area.
Reported in the Cortez Journal, Ute Mountain Ute tribal members will elect a tribal chairman, 2 council delegates, and a White Mesa, Utah representative during the October 14 election. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Community Center in Toyoak and the Recreation Center in White Mesa, Utah. The seats up for election are tribal chairman currently held by Manuel Hart and 2 tribal council members currently held by Priscilla Blackhawk Rentz and Regina Lopez Whiteskunk, and White Mesa representative currently held by Malcolm Lehigh. The tribe posted the unofficial candidate list at tribal headquarters in Toyoak, but election officials said the list is pending qualification reviews. Candidates for chairman are Hart and challenger Harold Cuthair. Candidates for council seats are Angelita Berry, Colleen Cuthair Root, Bradley Height, Priscilla Rabbit, Blackhawk Rentz, and Lindrith Wall. For the White Mesa representative, the candidates are Lehigh and challenger Elaine Cantsey. White Mesa voters will vote only for chairman and the White Mesa representative. For the Colorado portion of the tribe, the 2 candidates with the highest vote counts will earn delegate seats. Election official Jacqueline Coloro said, "Once we finalize the list, candidates will begin having their campaign dinners. Absentee balloting for the October 14 election will be allowed for non-resident voters and voters who will not be able to show up in person at the polling place on the day of election to cast their vote. However, the deadline to request an official notarized absentee ballot form in writing has passed. It was September the 8th.
The Cortez Journal reported on the Native American issue for our northern neighbors, as it is an example for all across the country. Hundreds of people gathered on the lawn outside the North Dakota Capitol in Bismarck last Friday afternoon for what was supposed to be a protest over construction of the $3.7 billion Dakota Access Pipeline. Dozens of state troopers lined up on the lawn in riot helmets, prepared for the possibility of violence, but the mood was joyous. People danced and sang and chanted, celebrating a surprise victory. Even Miss Indian World Daniela Tashina Finn made sure to come home for the event. Since earning the title at a powwow earlier this year, she's been traveling the world speaking out on topics like suicide prevention and now the pipeline. To her, Friday's event was, in a word, a gathering. It doesn't feel in any way like a protest, said Finn, who's a member of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. Just minutes after a federal judge rejected her tribe's request to halt construction on the 1,200-mile pipeline, the Obama administration stepped in. The Army Corps of Engineers said it would block construction of the pipeline on several key segments surrounding the Missouri River while the agency reviews its permitting decisions. The announcement said tribes had raised important issues regarding the Dakota Access Pipeline specifically and pipeline-related decision-making generally. This fall, the administration will initiate government-to-government consultations with tribal leaders about the need for nationwide reforms to the permitting process for similar projects. It's a win for all Indians. It's a win for Indigenous people, Standing Rock Chairman Dave Ashmambalt said in response to the government's decision. The proposed pipeline, being built by Texas-based Energy Transfer Partners, could transport more than 500,000 barrels of crude oil a day from the Bakken to Illinois. to Illinois. Its planned route passes just north of the Standing Rock Reservation. The tribe filed an injunction to stop the pipeline on the grounds of the Army Corps of Engineers failed to properly consult them during the permitting process. Protesters say a break in the pipeline would contaminate the Standing Rock Sioux's water supply and that the pipeline's route crosses sacred sites. Protesters clashed with private security for the pipeline 2 weeks ago when the company bulldozed through possible tribal burial grounds. But like many others celebrating the government's announcement, Moose said the victory was not clear-cut because of the judge's decision. The federal government said construction will be halted while it reviews its original decisions on the pipeline. But the responsible agencies didn't give a timeline for how long that might take, and the tribe is continuing its suit in court. And now, let's take a look at the weather.
And scattered thunderstorms over the southwest and central Colorado mountains. The northeast corner of Utah and the northwest corner of Colorado will see the last of their thunderstorms today, hopefully. Some isolated showers are expected over the Continental Divide for the weekend as well. Some isolated thunderstorms are possible for our Four Corners region today, although chances of rainfall amounts are expected to be low. But at 11:30 this morning, pea-sized hail and a brief rain hit here at our station location in the county courthouse in Dove Creek. And cloud coverage is exceeding the forecast levels, and rainfall amounts may as well. As always, call or Facebook us to let us know what you get today. This afternoon for our local area, winds will peak around 22 miles per hour with gusts up to 35 and drop off by sunset. Cooler conditions will prevail. We are now expecting to be dry and mostly sunny from now through the weekend, tomorrow through the weekend, and into Wednesday of next week. Next Wednesday is when our next moisture is forecast, but we'll know more by Monday's broadcast. In our national weather, Tropical Storm Julia will produce showers and thunderstorms over parts of the southeast with heavy rain through Thursday evening. The storm will slowly weaken to a tropical depression and then dissipate. The front from the northeast to the southern high plains will move off the northeast and mid-Atlantic coast and stall over the Carolinas and parts of the Tennessee Valley overnight and into Thursday. Showers and thunderstorms will develop along and near the boundary from the northeast to the southern plains that will move eastward off the northeast and mid-Atlantic coast by tomorrow morning. The showers and thunderstorms from the Ohio Valley to the southern plains will also dissipate by late tonight. The low over the Great Basin and northern Rockies will move slowly to the northern plains by tomorrow evening and into Friday. The system will produce showers and thunderstorms over parts of the northern Rockies and Great Basin into the southern Rockies and southern high plains, and will move slowly eastward to the northern high plains by tomorrow morning. On Thursday, thunderstorms will expand in the Mississippi Valley and in the southern plains. Tropical moisture along the Gulf Coast will produce showers and thunderstorms along parts of the western and central Gulf Coast today and into Thursday. For our 5-day forecast, directions have finally become clear, and we can expect tomorrow and onward to be mostly clear with daytime highs in the 70s and lows from the mid-30s to around 40 degrees. And after today's winds and gusts subside this evening, they are expected to stay under 5 miles per hour for about a week until the next front begins to arrive. And now back to the news.
From the Durango Herald report, the fight over a grouse found in pockets across the Great Plains is far from over, as industry and state officials worried Tuesday that relisting the lesser prairie chicken as a federally protected species could mean hundreds of millions of dollars in added costs for oil and gas developers, renewable energy companies, and farmers. The lesser prairie chicken was removed from the threatened and endangered species list earlier this year following court rulings in Texas and a decision by government lawyers not to pursue an appeal. A coalition of environmental groups filed a petition with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service late last week, saying there's new evidence that warrants listing the bird again. The groups argue that key populations are in danger of extinction as climate change exacerbates problems caused by energy development, farming, and other infrastructure such as roads and power lines. Emergency protections are needed for isolated populations along the Texas-New Mexico border in Colorado and western Kansas, the groups say. Ryland Hunter said there's little evidence that voluntary conservation programs are addressing the threats, suggesting that the Fish and Wildlife Service should promptly relist the species and develop a better strategy for protecting the bird. The lesser prairie chicken's Great Plains habitat has shrunk by more than 80% since the 1800s, and its population by 99%. It lives primarily in Kansas, but also in Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Colorado. About 95% of the bird's range is on private lands. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback, a Republican, had been a vocal critic of the initial listing, arguing that drought caused the decline in the wild chicken's numbers. To keep the bird off the endangered species list, the 5 states organized their own conservation program, offering economic incentives to landowners and companies that set aside land. Still, the Fish and Wildlife Service last year designated the lesser prairie chicken as threatened, one step beneath endangered status. The classification meant federal officials thought the bird soon would be in danger of extinction. Oil and gas groups opposed the listing, saying it would impede operations and cost companies hundreds of millions of dollars in one of the country's most prolific basins, the Permian Basin, which stretches from West Texas into eastern New Mexico. They took their case to federal court, where a judge found that the Fish and Wildlife failed to make a proper evaluation of the multi-state conservation plan when it listed the lesser prairie chicken as threatened. Despite giving up the court fight, the Fish and Wildlife Service has said the bird's status would be reevaluated. Based on aerial surveys, the Western Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies reported a 25% increase in lesser prairie chicken numbers from 2014 to 2015. That followed a 20% increase over the previous year. It's a relentless attack, Brownback said, of the latest effort to list the bird. It just seems like it's a tool and technique to push development in industry and agriculture off the land as opposed to really addressing the issue. Look up Agenda 21 and 2030 for more details on some sweeping overall plans in action for the West and across the world.
According to a Durango Herald report, concerns are being raised over proposed legislation in Colorado's Congress that attempts to curb lawsuits tied to the Americans with Disabilities Act. The bill comes after reports of lawsuits filed against businesses for what owners say are minor, easily correctable ADA violations. But the disabled community fears that the measure would create unnecessary hurdles to removing barriers while minimizing significant access issues. The legislation, co-sponsored by Representative Ken Buck, Republican from Colorado, would amend the 1990 ADA to offer business owners a chance to correct problems before facing civil action. A lawsuit would not be valid until the complainant sends a letter to the owner identifying the violation. The owner would have 60 days to send a written description outlining improvements that would be made. Owners would then have 120 days to remove the barrier or make substantial progress in removing the barrier. A fine would be imposed on any person who sends a demand letter alleging violations of the ADA without specifying the circumstances under which access was denied. The bill is awaiting a vote by the full House after passing the House Judiciary Committee 15-6. Riskin acknowledged that there have been instances of so-called drive-by litigation, but she said a better solution would be to mandate that business owners fix the problem. The ADA does not allow plaintiffs to sue for money damages, but the lawsuits can be used to coerce settlements from the owners as the ADA requires payment of the plaintiff's legal fees. Demand letters sent by attorneys can force the settlement in an amount just short of the legal fees, but settlements may not require owners to fix the problem. We do not support the strategy of suing people asking for financial settlement and leaving the problem there, Riskin said. Any legitimate ADA lawsuit should seek to solve the problem. She added that supporters of the legislation are downplaying the problems, pointing out that what is perceived as minor violations are actually something much larger. 1 inch too small may be the difference between my wheelchair getting through a door or not, Riskin said. Supporters of the bill, however, say the law is being abused. A Florida man filed dozens of lawsuits against small businesses across Colorado, including at least 10 in Durango. Alleged violations include bathroom counters and soap dispensers that sit too high, grab bars that have improper length or spacing, and insufficient door aisles or floor space for maneuvering. Owners point out that because of the lawsuits, they're left with less money to fix the problems that they're being sued over. These drive-by lawsuits do little to actually improve access and are more about lining the pockets of aggressive attorneys, said Republican Ted Poe, representative from Texas, the prime sponsor of the legislation. But Stephen Hamer, a disability advocate for Stevens List, a Southern Colorado advocacy group for individuals with disabilities, said, "The legislation is designed to limit my ability as a person with a disability to enforce my rights. The message of this bill is that people like me with disabilities should be treated as second-class citizens. Could hardly be clearer," he said. He highlighted that most civil rights laws do not impose similar burdens on complainants, violating my rights and the rights of other people with disabilities and denying us the access to places of public accommodation that we all take for granted as American citizens should be treated no differently, he said.
Balloon Festival in Mancos is aglow. As reported in the Cortez Journal, 11 hot air balloons will take to the skies from Boyle Park in Mancos as the Mancos Valley Balloon and Arts Festival enters its 12th year. People come from all over the Four Corners, event organizer Bobby Black said. It's a beautiful sight. Balloon launches will take place each morning at 6:45 a.m. on September 22nd through the 24th at Boyle Park. This year's event features 11 balloons. The event is free, but balloon rides cost $125 and tethered rides cost $10. Black said she expects as many as 3,000 people to come see the show that weekend. The balloon spectacle is accompanied by a fundraiser barbecue dinner and hoedown, which will take place Friday, September 23rd at the arena at Medicine Horse Center. Tickets for the dinner cost $20, and proceeds will benefit Medicine Horse, as well as Operation Second Chance, an organization that assists veterans with disabilities. It's the first year that the dinner will be held in the Medicine Horse Arena. People are encouraged to don Western attire for the hoedown. A live and silent auction will also be held during the hoedown to benefit the charities. The sale will feature items such as the balloon-themed quilt made during the first Mancos Balloon Festival in 2004, an alpaca raft, and a 4-day Flagstaff vacation package. There will also be a drawing for a free balloon ride. Also, alongside the event is the Arts Festival, which will take place September 23rd along Grand Avenue in Mancos. Galleries will open their doors, and there will be food vendors and artists in town. The street will be closed down, and carriage rides will be offered, along with the train ride for children. The finale of the event is the Balloon Glow on Sunday evening in Boyle Park. People will line the circumference of the park and watch as pilots fire up their balloons as music plays. The glow will start about 7:30 p.m. when it starts to get dark. Balloon crew volunteers are also still needed, as well as volunteer overseer, Black said. So anyone interested in volunteering may call Black at 970-560-0203.
Now our continuing updates from the Dolores County Sheriff's Roundup for the week of September the 5th through the 11th. They arrested Philip Trujillo on charges of possession of a firearm by a previous offender and possession of a controlled substance. A deputy performed a welfare check on a county resident, and a call was received reporting an unattended death above Dunton. A welfare check was requested on a female who was dropped off at her request at the Family Dollar store. A deputy made contact, and the female was okay and had made arrangements for a friend to pick her up. Officers' search warrant was executed at the Buckhorn Lodge on County Road 31. A complaint was received from a property owner who was having problems with a tenant over horse pasture. A deputy contacted both parties in an attempt to resolve the dispute. That's it for this week's Roundup. We'll have more for you again next week.
In today's High Country happenings, September 16th, Friday, a Navajo taco dinner and flag retirement ceremony will be held at the American Legion Hall on North Harrison in Cortez, Colorado. Sponsored by Post 75, dinner is from 5 to 7 p.m., the retirement at 7, $5 per person requested donation. September 17th, the Golden Knights are dropping in for the Durango-La Plata County Airport's second annual aviation celebration. From 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., it's free admission and parking. You can take a ride in a WW2 era aircraft. There's a beer tent sponsored by the United Way, test drive exotic cars, and the jumping will be at 10 and 3. For more details, visit flydurango.com or call 970-382-6051. September 29th, the Cortez Rec Center is hosting a trip for seniors called Leaf Peepers Trip to Telluride for a fall foliage experience. Ride the gondola from Mountain Village in Telluride for lunch and back again. The $30 fee includes lunch and transportation. Departing at 9:30 a.m. and returning at 4 p.m., contact the Cortez Rec Center for more info at 970-564-4080. Participants must be 60 or older. This Saturday, September 17th, a Republican meet and greet with Darrell Glenn, Republican U.S. Senate candidate, will be held from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Montezuma County Republican Headquarters, 1850 East Main Street in Cortez, followed by the Republican Lincoln Day dinner with keynote speaker Darrell Glenn. Reservations were due by September 8th, but for all details, call Patty French at 970-739-6845, Jan Gardner at 565-2197, or Danny Wilkin at 749-0273 for further details. And of course, all of these details are listed on our Facebook page. We are also embedding the YouTube replays of our show there too. Please send your event info to dcbnnews@gmail.com or call the station at 677-4119 and we'll be sure to get it on air. Again, thank you for tuning in. This program is aired live at noon Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and rebroadcast at 2:30 and 8 p.m. and then again re-aired Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in the same sequence at noon, 2:30, and 8 each day respectively.
You can also re-watch the news anytime as a YouTube video and embedded in the DCTV News at Noon Facebook page, and interact with us by posting to that page.
For Jerry Tope and all those working to bring you DCTV and the News at Noon program from Dove Creek, USA, I'm Kendra Cook. Fear not, love much.